Have you ever noticed how a lamp doesn't burn itself out to give light, where people only complain about its brightness? It shines where it is welcomed, where its glow is valued. But in life, many of us keep pouring our light into places where our presence is ignored, our value is questioned, and our heart is not respected. My friends, the truth is simple: don't shine where you're not respected. Because respect is not a luxury, it is the soil in which love, growth, and peace can truly blossom. We live in a world where everyone tells us to be kind, to be giving, to spread positivity. And yes, all of that is true. But kindness does not mean being blind. Giving does not mean being taken for granted. And spreading positivity does not mean allowing yourself to be drained by those who never value the light you carry. God has placed within each of us a flame, a unique glow of wisdom, love, and strength. But when that flame is constantly exposed to winds of disrespect, criticism, and neglect, it starts to flicker. It starts to question its own worth. That is why today I want to remind you that shining where you are valued, where your soul feels seen, and where your heart feels respected is not selfishness. It is self-respect. And self-respect is deeply spiritual, because when you honor the light within you, you are honoring the gift of God Himself. So let us reflect together on the powerful truth. Don't shine where you're not respected. Respect is the foundation upon which every meaningful relationship stands. If we take a closer look at our daily lives, we will see that without respect, even the sweetest forms of love can turn bitter. Even the strongest friendships can wither away, and even family bonds can begin to feel heavy. Love may be the fragrance of a flower, but respect is the root. Without the root, the fragrance cannot survive for long. You may give your time, your heart, and your energy to people, but if they do not treat you with respect, it will not feel nourishing. It will feel draining. Respect is not a luxury, it is the very oxygen that allows love to breathe. Think about it. If someone says they love you, but constantly dismisses your words, interrupts you when you speak, belittles your dreams, or mocks your feelings, do you feel that love is real? No, because without respect, love becomes hollow. It becomes an empty shell that looks shiny on the outside, but has nothing inside. Many people confuse attachment or dependency with love, but love without respect is not love. It is neediness disguised as affection. And when you live in that kind of atmosphere, your heart begins to shrink. You stop feeling valued, you start doubting your worth, and you end up giving more and more, only to receive less and less. In contrast, imagine a friendship where even if you disagree, the other person still listens to you with patience. Imagine a relationship where your individuality is honored, where your dreams are encouraged, and where your silence is understood without explanation. That is respect. Respect does not always show itself in grand gestures. It often hides in the smallest details. A pause while you are speaking so your words are heard, a gentle acknowledgement of your effort, even if it was small, a willingness to accept your boundaries. These are the bricks with which the house of respect is built. Let's take an example from everyday life. Think of a workplace. There may be two managers, one who constantly criticizes the team, points out every mistake, and never acknowledges effort, and another who corrects with kindness, values feedback, and appreciates even small progress. Both may achieve results, but the team working under the respectful leader will always feel inspired, motivated, and loyal, while the team under the disrespectful one will feel drained, demotivated, and ready to leave at the first opportunity. What's the difference? Respect. One treats people as replaceable tools, The other treats them as valuable human beings. In our personal lives, too, respect makes all the difference. Many of us have experienced moments where we gave our best in a relationship, be it with family, friends, or even colleagues, but our presence was taken for granted. It feels like you are pouring water into a pot with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much you give, it is never enough. On the other hand, when someone truly respects you, even the smallest gesture you make is valued. A simple message, a small effort, even your time, it all becomes precious in their eyes. That is the power of respect. But here's where we often make a mistake. We think love alone will be enough to hold relationships together. We tolerate disrespect, we make excuses for people, we tell ourselves they love me, so it's okay if they don't respect me. But slowly, that acceptance starts eating away at our soul. Respect is not something you should beg for. It is something that should flow naturally if the bond is real. The moment you have to constantly fight for it, the bond is already broken, even if it still appears intact on the surface. When God created us, He gave us dignity. Every human being carries an innate sense of worth because they carry within them a spark of the divine. When we allow ourselves to be treated without respect, we are not just dishonoring ourselves, we are dishonoring that divine spark. To value ourselves and to expect respect in our relationships is not arrogance, it is recognizing the gift of God within us. Respect also brings balance. When two people respect each other, there is equality. One does not feel greater, and the other does not feel smaller. Respect removes the ego that says, I am more important than you, and replaces it with humility that says, you and I are equally important. That is why respect is not just about relationships with others, it is also about our relationship with God. When we learn to respect ourselves, we are automatically respecting the Creator. And when we respect others, we are honoring the divine presence in them. So, the next time you think about the relationships in your life, ask yourself this: do they make me feel respected? Do I feel valued when I am around them? Do I feel like my presence matters? Because if the answer is no, then that relationship is not built on a strong foundation. It may stand for a while, but like a house built on weak soil, it will eventually collapse. But when respect is there, even through storms, even through differences, the bond remains unshaken because the roots are deep. True respect is not demanding, it is natural. It does not have to be forced, begged, or negotiated. It is the silent recognition of your worth, the invisible thread that ties hearts together without choking them. And in this world, where everyone is rushing, competing, and seeking validation, respect is that gentle hand that says, I see you, I value you, I honor you. That is why we must remember, without respect, no relationship can truly thrive. Love is the flower, but respect is the soil, the root, and the water. If the soil is weak, the flower will not bloom, no matter how much sunlight it receives. But when the soil is strong, even a small seed grows into a tree. So, never settle for love without respect, because true love cannot exist without it. God has given every human being a priceless gift: dignity. It is the invisible crown we all wear, whether rich or poor, educated or uneducated, young or old. Dignity is the quiet reminder that we are not just bodies moving through this world, we are souls carrying the spark of the divine. But how often do we forget this crown? How often do we lower our heads, compromise our worth, and trade this dignity for the temporary approval of others? When we chase the applause of people who do not respect us, we are, without realizing it, trading gold for dust. Approval is a fleeting thing. One day people clap for you, The next day they criticize you. One day they say you are wonderful. The next they say you are nothing. If you anchor your worth to their words, your peace will always rise and fall like a fragile boat in a stormy ocean. Approval seeking makes us restless because we tie our identity to people's moods instead of God's truth. But dignity is different. Dignity is stable, unshaken, because it is rooted in the recognition that my worth does not depend on what others think. It depends on who I truly am, a creation of God, inherently valuable, inherently worthy of respect. Think of it like this: imagine holding 1,000 rupee note. If someone praises it, does its value increase? If someone insults it, does its value decrease? No. The note has its value because of what it is, not because of what others say about it. The same is true for us. Our worth is not up for debate. We may fall, we may make mistakes, people may misunderstand us, but the dignity given to us by God does not disappear. When we forget this truth, we start running after approval, and when we run after approval, we often tolerate disrespect. Let's take an example from everyday life. Imagine a student in school who is desperate to be accepted by a popular group of friends. To please them, she laughs at jokes she doesn't find funny, she hides her real interests, and sometimes even joins them in mocking others just so they don't reject her. On the surface, it looks like she belongs, but deep inside, she feels empty because her acceptance came at the cost of her dignity. Now imagine another student who values her dignity. She may not be in the most popular group, but she is respected because she stands true to herself, doesn't let others cross her boundaries, and carries herself with confidence. Which of the two feels lighter in their heart? Which of the two truly shines? The answer is clear: dignity always outshines false approval. In relationships too, we see this play out. Many people stay in toxic situations just because they fear loneliness. They keep giving and giving, hoping that one day the other person will value them. But instead, they are constantly disrespected, criticized, and taken for granted. Why do they stay? Because they have convinced themselves that any form of attention is better than none. But this is like begging for scraps when you have a full meal waiting for you at God's table. When you remember that God has given you dignity, you stop begging for crumbs of approval from others. You start walking with your head held high, not in arrogance, but in the quiet confidence that comes from self-respect. Approval is temporary fuel, dignity is eternal light. Approval fades as soon as people get distracted or find someone else to admire. But dignity shines regardless of whether anyone notices or not. The great souls in history who changed the world did not run after approval. In fact, many of them were criticized, mocked, even rejected by society in their time. But they stood firm in their dignity, and today we honor them. Why? Because they understood this truth. To compromise your dignity for approval is to lose yourself. But to protect your dignity, even if it means standing alone, is to remain true to God's design for you. One of the most painful things in life is to watch people who are talented, kind, and full of potential shrink themselves to fit into spaces where they are not valued. They dim their light so others feel comfortable. They silence their voice so others won't be offended. And they keep sacrificing their dignity in the hope that one day those who ignore them will finally clap for them. But the tragedy is that day rarely comes. The people who do not respect you will not suddenly wake up and change their hearts. The respect you crave cannot come from outside. It has to begin within. When you start respecting yourself, you stop tolerating what diminishes your dignity. So, how do we live this truth in daily life? Whenever you find yourself seeking approval, pause and ask, am I doing this because it honors my dignity, or am I doing this because I fear rejection? If it honors your dignity, then continue, because that is aligned with your inner worth. But if it comes from fear, hesitation, or compromise, remind yourself, God has already approved you. The highest authority has already declared your worth. You do not need temporary applause when the Creator Himself has placed His signature of dignity upon your soul. This doesn't mean we become stubborn or arrogant. It doesn't mean we refuse all feedback or never listen to others. It means that while we learn, grow, and evolve, we do not abandon the essence of who we are. True dignity is quiet, humble, and graceful but firm. It allows us to say yes with joy when something aligns with our values, and no with courage when it does not. Remember, approval is like perfume, nice to smell, but if you drink it, it will poison you. Dignity is like pure water, simple, clean, and life-giving. Live in such a way that you never trade your water for perfume. People may come and go, applause may rise and fall, but your dignity, your God-given dignity, must remain untouched. That is your true wealth. That is your true strength. Your energy is one of the most sacred gifts you carry. Every day when you wake up, you are given a fresh reservoir of energy by God, energy to think, to feel, to create, to serve, to love, and to live. But the truth is, not everyone or everything deserves that energy. Too often, we pour it into places where it is not valued, into people who do not appreciate it, and into situations that only drain us. If you spend your life shining in spaces where your presence is disrespected, you are wasting the very treasure that God has entrusted to you. Energy is like currency. Imagine if every morning you were given a limited amount of money to spend. Would you spend it carelessly on things that bring you no value? Or would you spend it wisely on things that nourish you, uplift you, and bring you closer to your true purpose? In the same way, every moment of your energy is precious. Where you invest it decides not only the quality of your relationships, but also the peace of your heart. Think about the times when you have been around people who constantly criticize, complain, or belittle you. After spending just an hour with them, you feel exhausted, even if you did nothing physically tiring. Why? Because energy has been drained from you. Now think of the times when you've been around people who genuinely appreciate you, who listen, who support, who make you laugh. After being with them, you feel light, inspired, and energized, even if you were with them for hours. The difference lies not in the amount of time spent, but in how your sacred energy was exchanged. One drained it, the other replenished it. There's a beautiful example in nature. Consider the sun. The sun shines everywhere, but not every surface benefits equally from its light. Some surfaces absorb the rays and grow fertile, like soil-nurturing plants. Some surfaces reflect the light beautifully, like clear water sparkling under the sun. But there are also places where the sun's light is simply wasted, like a wall that neither reflects nor grows. Now imagine if the sun could choose, it would naturally shine more where its light produces life, beauty, and value. Likewise, your energy, your light, should not be wasted where nothing grows, where no reflection of respect or appreciation is found. Many people feel burnt out, not because they are working hard, but because they are working in the wrong places, giving their sacred energy to those who only take and never give. It's like pouring water into a cup with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much you pour, it never fills. And yet, we often keep pouring because we hope one day the hole will magically disappear. But wisdom tells us otherwise. Stop pouring into what leaks your peace. Protect your energy like you would protect your most valuable possession, because in truth it is. Let's take a daily life example. A young man in his workplace constantly tries to prove himself to a boss who never acknowledges his efforts. He works overtime, takes on extra tasks, and sacrifices his personal time, all in the hope of being seen. But the boss only criticizes, never praises. Day after day, the young man feels drained, tired, and unmotivated. Now imagine if he redirected his energy, not to winning empty approval, but to building his skills, seeking environments where his work is valued, and nurturing relationships that uplift him. The same energy, when channeled differently, transforms into fulfillment instead of frustration. Protecting your energy doesn't mean cutting everyone off. It means being wise about where your light shines. It means recognizing who appreciates your presence and who takes it for granted. It means learning to say no when something drains your soul and saying yes to what feeds it. It means remembering that just as you would not let anyone waste your money, you should not let anyone waste your energy. One of the most overlooked truths is that your energy is connected to your spiritual well-being. When your energy is drained, your mind becomes restless, your emotions unstable, and your connection with God weaker. But when your energy is preserved, your mind becomes calmer, your emotions more balanced, and your heart more open to God's presence. That is why conserving your energy is not just a matter of self-care. It is a matter of spiritual care. Protecting your energy is protecting the flame that God has lit within you. This is why being around the right people matters so much. Just as one weak battery drains another, when connected, one negative soul can drain a positive one if you're not careful. But just as one candle can light another without losing its own flame, being around uplifting people can multiply your energy instead of depleting it. Choose wisely who you give your energy to, because once it is spent, you cannot get it back. In life, you will meet three types of people: those who drain your energy, those who exchange energy fairly, and those who amplify your energy. The first will leave you empty, the second will leave you balanced, and the third will leave you glowing. The wise know where to shine more and where to step back. This does not make you unkind, it makes you aware. Even God teaches us through nature seeds grow only in fertile soil, not in rocks. Your energy too must be planted in fertile soil where it bears fruit. So each day ask yourself, where am I spending my energy? Who gets the best of my light? Who gets my time, my attention, my presence? And are those people and situations nourishing me or draining me? Because your answer will decide whether you feel fulfilled at the end of the day or empty. Your energy is sacred. Don't waste it proving yourself to people who refuse to see your value. Don't waste it trying to shine where your light is ignored. Instead, direct it where it grows, where it heals, where it inspires. Because at the end of the day, you are accountable not for how much you gave away, but for how wisely you used the sacred energy God gifted you. Walking away is one of the hardest yet most powerful acts of strength a human being can learn. We live in a society where endurance is glorified. Endure the pain, endure the disrespect, endure the toxicity. People often tell us that leaving a situation, a relationship, or even a job where we are not respected is a sign of weakness, of giving up too soon. But in reality, walking away from places that no longer honor your worth is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is a declaration that your soul refuses to settle for less than what God intended for you. Think of a river. When a river meets an obstacle, like a giant rock blocking its way, does it stop flowing forever? No, it changes direction. It finds a new path. The river does not cling to the rock, crying, "Why don't you move for me?" It simply adjusts its course and continues its journey to the ocean. This is exactly how life is. There will be people and situations that act like those rocks, blocking your growth, suffocating your spirit, and draining your energy. If you keep insisting on staying there, hoping the rock will one day change, you will stagnate. But when you have the courage to walk away and find a new course, you keep flowing, you keep moving, you keep growing. Walking away is not an act of bitterness, but of clarity. It is not about hatred, but about self-respect. Sometimes, staying where respect is absent slowly kills you from the inside because your light keeps dimming until you no longer recognize yourself. Leaving in those moments becomes an act of self-preservation. It is you telling yourself, "I deserve better. I deserve peace. I deserve to be in spaces where my heart feels safe and my soul feels valued." And when you make that choice, you may feel pain at first, but soon you will feel the freedom of aligning your life with your dignity. Let's take an example many people can relate to. Imagine a young woman working tirelessly in a company. She puts in long hours, gives creative ideas, and always delivers results. But instead of recognition, she faces constant criticism, is overlooked for promotions, and is made to feel small by her superiors. She struggles with the thought of leaving because she has invested so much time. Yet, the more she stays, the more she feels drained, unappreciated, and invisible. The day she gathers the courage to walk away is the day she chooses respect over approval, dignity over fear, growth over stagnation. Soon, she finds a place where her talents are valued, and she begins to bloom again. Did she lose by walking away? No, she gained back her worth. This principle applies not just to work, but to relationships as well. How many of us stay in friendships or relationships that constantly make us feel unworthy, all because we fear being alone? We accept disrespect disguised as love, manipulation disguised as care, and criticism disguised as concern. And in doing so, we shrink ourselves into smaller versions of who we are meant to be. Walking away from such bonds does not mean you failed. It means you chose to honor the divine spark within you rather than suffocate it for the sake of company. Loneliness is easier to heal than the slow erosion of your soul caused by disrespect. The courage to walk away is built on faith. Faith that God has not created you to suffer endlessly in spaces where you are not respected. Faith that when one door closes, another will open. Faith that leaving behind what is not meant for you creates space for what is. Too often, we cling to situations out of fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. But remember, fear chains you while faith frees you. Walking away is an act of faith that says, "I trust that God has better for me." Another important truth is this: when you walk away from what disrespects you, you are also teaching others how to treat you. People observe the standards you set. If you stay in places where you are constantly dishonored, you indirectly send a message that this treatment is acceptable. But when you leave, you silently declare, "I will not allow myself to be treated this way." And that declaration not only elevates your own life, but also inspires others around you who may be stuck in similar situations. Some might argue, but what if walking away makes me look selfish? The answer is simple. Preserving your dignity is not selfishness, it is self-respect. It is not about discarding people or situations casually. It is about discerning where your soul thrives and where it suffers. Even in nature, a plant does not grow in toxic soil, no matter how much sunlight or water it receives. If the soil is poisonous, the roots will weaken. Similarly, if the environment around you is toxic with disrespect, you cannot grow no matter how much effort you put in. Sometimes the only solution is to uproot yourself and be planted elsewhere, where your roots can stretch freely and your branches can rise toward the sky. Walking away also allows you to reclaim your energy. Staying in a place where you are not respected consumes endless mental and emotional energy. You find yourself overthinking, doubting, constantly explaining, or endlessly trying to prove yourself. But the moment you walk away, you free that energy. Suddenly, your mind is lighter, your heart is freer, and your spirit feels unchained. That energy can then be redirected toward building the life you truly deserve. So, the next time you find yourself holding on to something that diminishes your dignity, remind yourself of the river. You were not meant to stop at a rock, you were meant to flow. Remind yourself of the plant. You were not meant to wither in toxic soil, you were meant to blossom. And remind yourself of the divine truth. God did not create you to shine where you are not respected. Walking away is not giving up, it is choosing growth over stagnation, faith over fear, and dignity over disrespect. It is one of the bravest steps you can ever take toward honoring the light within you.